In this clip, scenes are shown of the existing border fence as it is in October 2019 near Campo. This clip deals with a stretch of about 17 miles in total, running from the outskirts of Tecate almost to the community of Boulevard. Campo is a small border town of about 3,000 inhabitants in the mountains about 35 miles east of San Diego. The border fence is not in good condition here, but I want to show the best and the worst. The public needs to know what the bad parts are also, not just the good. The city of San Diego is high visibility, and they're going to have a great double fence with 18-foot high primary and 30-foot secondary fences. But we don't want to forget about the backcountry that you'll never see in media conferences. Many people will see the good part and think that's the way it is everywhere on the border. I haven't heard that a new bollard fence is scheduled yet for Campo, but maybe it will come next year. If so, I'll show the improvement then. This image is on the edge of Smith Canyon. The old landing mat fence seen here runs for about 7 miles to the left, that is east to Boulevard, before it turns into bollard fence. According to Google Earth, there are no big gaps that way. I'm not going to show more of it because an agent said the road was too rough to drive in my car. The distance from the fence on this side to the fence on the other side is about 600 yards, or a third of a mile. A person can walk from Mexico to the U.S. via this canyon. Of course, I should point out that Border Patrol can alarm it with a variety of sensors that can detect persons or vehicles that may cross here. This is a close-up of the end of the fence on the other side, which is 15-foot bollards. On the left, you can see a road leads right up to the gap on the Mexican side. Some vehicle barrier was put on the U.S. side a little farther down into the canyon to keep them from just driving across. This is a fence on the west side of Smith Canyon. At the top, there's a stretch of bollards which turn into 8 to 10 foot high landing mat fence after only about 300 yards. For almost 4 miles to Patriot Point, it's mostly landing mat with another small stretch or two of bollards. The terrain can be rough out here, and the ground is sometimes solid granite. This may be why Campo is not high on the list for new fence. Customs Border Protection has limited funding, and they obviously want to make it go as far and as quickly as they can. So CBP is doing the easier parts first and saving the harder areas of the border for later. Certainly in areas of high visibility like San Diego, they also do that first for public relations reasons. There's nothing wrong with maintaining your image, we just don't want them to pass over the backcountry. Here's a little break in the fence. There's a path on the other side of these boulders as if people cross regularly here. They can just lift the concertina wire off the boulder with a stick and crawl under it. But on the other hand, it's not too difficult to crawl over the landing mat fence anywhere for miles in that same way, or just by cutting the wire completely off the fence. San Diego City will have a 30-foot high bollard secondary fence. This is a secondary fence in the Campo area, a few strands of barbed wire. You can see they've cut through it here. Here's the Robert Roses Memorial. Agent Roses was murdered one night at this spot just a few yards from the border just for his night vision glasses. He left a young wife and 2 small kids behind. A better fence would mean fewer deaths and injuries to agents as well as illegal crossers. Now we're on top of Patriot Point, a high spot right on the border. Besides the American flag flying nearby, there are 2 plaques on the rock, one for the Mountain Minutemen who sometimes come and watch the border. The other one is for Robert Baker, aka the judge, who died of a heart attack here watching the border. He was 82 years old at the time. These are 2 of the Mountain Minutemen still watching the border. The first one goes by the handle Gadget Dan. The other one is called Little Dog. This is a pan from the south to the east from Patriot Point. The pan ends looking towards Smith Canyon, almost 4 miles away. A little further down the road to the west, we come upon a couple of gaps in the fence. It's still about 6 miles from here to Tecate. Going farther over the hill, we find another gap here. There's only barbed wire on the border at this place. As mentioned earlier, even the landing mat does not stop those who want to cross on foot. If they can get past the Border Patrol, they typically have arranged for someone to pick them up on a nearby highway. Mexican Highway 2 runs parallel to the border, and it is only about a mile away in this place. Here's a stretch of bollard fence with many breaks in it. How effective can it be to put up a bollard fence with so many gaps in it? This is a pan of that same area where the bollard fence has multiple gaps. The old bollard fence may have been funded at the end of the W. Bush administration, and some of it may have been constructed in the early days of the Obama administration. I don't think Obama intentionally put up any effective border fence. The CBP may have put some up when he wasn't paying attention, though. Some of this bollard fence is over 10 years old. There's an old railroad line that goes through a tunnel to Mexico in this area about 3 miles from Tecate. The light at the end of this tunnel is Mexico. The tunnel goes under the border. You might ask, why isn't it blocked? But I would guess this is probably a place where they use seismic sensors and or infrared sensors to alert them whenever anyone passes through the tunnel. Now we're just to the west of that train tunnel. The trestle and the tunnel can be seen at the bottom of this image. The bollard fence here stops on the hill before it reaches the tunnel. This is the biggest gap on the border in this area and is very close to Tecate, only a couple of miles away. The buildings you see on the other side of the border are already outlying developments of Tecate. The fence does not start up again until the other side of the hill. The width of the gap here is 1.3 miles, and the U.S. Highway 94 runs very close to the border in this area, as close as a few hundred yards away, where illegals could be picked up. Here's another nice 15-foot bollard fence that runs less than 300 yards and then turns into a landing mat fence again. I'm not sure what good such a short bollard fence does. The fence does not run over the hill on either side. There's a line of trees at the end of this image, and we go there next. This is a dry wash in the line of trees at the bottom of the slope in that last image. There are only some vehicle barriers here and anyone can walk through. We're on the outskirts of Tecate here, and US Highway 94 is within easy walking distance too, only a mile away. The Border Patrol has sensors and video cameras, but still this is pretty ridiculous. It's not the Border Patrol's fault though, they just take orders from higher up. On the other side of that last hill is another short stretch of older 15-foot bollard fence. The difference between 15-foot bollard and more recent 18-foot bollard fence is the way they attach the anti-climb plate. In the beginning it was attached to the side of the bollards, and more recently it's put on top to add height. The bollards are otherwise much the same. That's all for this clip. Please subscribe, and if you want to get email notices, click on the bell and select the option.